When it's time to pay at the restaurant, how much do you leave for the server? A new report is telling us where New Mexico stacks up when it comes to ponying up tips. Here's News 13's Candace Hopkins.
Alex, that report shows servers here in New Mexico are making close to 20% on each meal, but that's still a good amount lower than some other states, places you might not expect. It's a dining out tradition, tipping your server based on how much you spent on your meal. Many servers say most Americans leave the standard 20%, but a new study shows it actually depends on where you live. Albuquerque-based Lavu makes iPad-based systems that restaurants use to take orders. They studied data from all 50 states and found that here,
generally, New Mexico isn't as generous as some other states.
On average, New Mexico patrons leave about 19.35%. Broken down by category, about 19.3% at restaurants, a solid 19% at bars, and a measly 15.9% at coffee shops. But where servers tip the most?
Overall, Oklahoma was the most generous state,
where the average tip is 23.17%, more than 4% higher than the national average. Maryland and New Hampshire came in at second and third. But people we spoke to say how much you leave typically only depends on one thing.
I consider myself to be a pretty good tipper based on service, and overall I would say Albuquerque is pretty good service.
And some servers here in New Mexico agree. They say they don't feel underpaid, and ultimately, how they do is up to them.
Giving that person your own special touch, what you can bring to the table.
That's why many, like those we spoke to at El Pinto, say they don't support the recent trend of some restaurants doing away with tipping.
You wouldn't have the same energy. You would just kind of go skate through the motions and versus having an incentive to make more money.
It kind of takes up all the fun.
The lowest tippers are in North Dakota, where the average is just 16.6%. Back to you, Alex.
All right, Candace, thank you very much. The report also pitted tippers on the East Coast versus the West Coast. The East came out on top by around 2%.